What is up, everybody? It's B Mac, and I'm back here today. I know it's been a while, but I'm just going to be talking about the college football playoff as of November 11th. As you can see, 11-11 up there. And you know, what's my point here? Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's pretty easy, and if you really like my content, then you can click that notification bell, and it will be a lot. And then you can get the notifications of every time I post. So now let's just get into the talk here. And so I'm gonna be kind of revealing like each seed at a time. So we're just gonna start with the number 1 overall seed, and everybody knows it's pretty much just between, for that number 1 spot, it is between let me get this full screen for you guys so you guys can see this better. And it is between let me get this full screen for you guys. Let me see, make sure that you guys can see this. It is. Yep, you guys are okay. So the number 1 overall seed, it's between Ohio State, Texas A&M, and Indiana. It's been those 3 all year. They're all undefeated. I believe Indiana's 10-0, and I believe the other 2 are 9-0. And so it's gonna, I think the college football playoff loves Ohio State. They fall in love with them just because they won the national championship last year. They've proven to be the best team in the country again this year. But my number 1 overall seed is the Indiana Hoosiers out of the Big Ten. Like I said, they're 10-0, and they have the best win in the country on the road at Oregon. They've proven to be one of the best teams in the country. They have the resumes. They have the predictive metrics. They have proven to be the best team in the country so far, honestly, using resume and predictive metrics. Fernando Mendoza made a big play this weekend to win that game. Gus Johnson kind of stole the call, but that's a different thing to talk about. Great team. Don't get me wrong. Curt Cignetti's done a wonderful job with this Indiana program so far in his career. And a lot of people are going to be like, oh, Birdie, they only beat Penn State by 4. Penn State's a lot better team than what they've shown, and everybody knows that. They just don't want to admit it. They are probably the best 3-6 team in the country, honestly. They are a really solid team, and I'm not saying that that's like, a great win, but, it's hard to win on the road in big games. It's hard to go into Happy Valley and win, except if you ask Ohio State fans, and they won't say that. But, yeah, this Indiana team, I think, has proven to be one of the best teams in the country. They're playing like it right now, and I think they deserve the 1 spot. I don't think that's what the committee will do. I think the committee will favor Ohio State, but we'll see here. So then the number 2, it's the next 2 teams are pretty much between Ohio State and Texas A&M. Texas A&M has that huge win on the road against Notre Dame, and then Ohio State doesn't really have that significant wins, but they are playing like the best team in the country. Hands down, they are the best team in this country, and you can't argue with that. They are playing like out of their mind, which is great to see. But the number 2 overall seed I got is the Texas A&M Aggies out of the SEC. They've done an incredible job this year so far. They got the best win in the country at Notre Dame. And they have just been absolutely dominant throughout the stretch. They have proven to be one of the best teams in the country. Marcel Reed has done an incredible job leading this team, and same with Mike Elko. Great job. I kind of figured that he was going to turn this program around pretty fast. They weren't in a terrible spot when he came in, but man, he has really excelled this program into the next level of what they should be, and it's just really exciting to see that this Texas A&M team's good. As a Notre Dame fan, that loss still hurts, but they probably have the best resume overall as a team in the country just because of their wins. They also have key wins at Missouri and at LSU, so they also got some good wins. I believe they're the only team in the country with 3 road wins against power for opponents. So that's really impressive for them. And no surprise as who's going to be number 3, guys. If it will let me. Oh, no. Don't give away. Well, you guys saw 4. All right. Pretend like that didn't happen. All right. So the number 3 overall seed is the Ohio State Buckeyes. This team, honestly, they're the best team in the country. And you might be asking, Brady, why aren't they number 1? Because they haven't beaten the quality opponents that Texas A&M and Indiana has. So how can I put them at number 1 if they haven't beat the teams that Indiana and Texas A&M have? Don't get me wrong. If Ohio State played those other 2 teams on a neutral field, they would probably be favored. You look at the SPS Plus rankings; those are all. So when I talk about predictive metrics, I'm talking about I'm talking about SP Plus rankings. I'm talking about FPI. I'm talking about efficiencies. You can find all those on the ESPN database. So if you want to get into like the predictive metrics and resume metrics, go check out ESPN. And then the resume metrics are strength of record. Then I use this little own formula in my head that I use that I'm not going to give away because I use it for other stuff. And I don't know. But it's pretty simple, honestly. And that's kind of what I use. I kind of use those 5 metrics to kind of get these all together. And Ohio State, okay, talk about this. Ryan Day, he wanted the Ohio State fans wanted him out last year. But he has done an incredible job with this program. I mean, you can't lie. Coming off a national championship as of last year. Going to be interesting to see what they can do in the playoffs. And the Ohio State-Indiana game, the Big Ten championship game, is going to be a good one. We're going to see what both teams are truly made of. We're going to see if Ohio State's really battle-tested. But a lot of people forget that they won that game against Texas right out of the gate. Texas is a really solid team, guys. Don't let the media just derail you of how successful Texas has been this year. You understand that winning on the road's tough. Having a first-year starting quarterback with a lot of hype, that it's a lot of hype on Arch, but and then Ohio State also has key wins on the road at Illinois and at Washington. And a lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, those 2 some good wins, just not at the caliber at Indiana and Texas A&M have." So I slotted them in at number 3. And then, if you guys are paying attention, you saw who I put at number 4, and it is the Alabama Crimson Tide, led by Kalen DeBoer. A lot of people wanted him gone after last season. Alabama said, who else we're going to get? Which is fair. So, sorry, guys. So they stuck with him. Ty Simpson has been playing like a Heisman caliber player. He has been one of the best players in the country. He's probably in the top 3 of the Heisman race right now. I'd probably say the top 3 Heisman race right now are Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson, and then Julian Sayin from Ohio State. I'd probably say. And then you wonder why those teams have been you wonder why those teams, looking at all these 4 teams, you wonder why they have been so successful, because they have the 4 best quarterbacks in the country on their team leading their way. That's why they've been so successful. And Alabama, they lost that game to Florida State early in the year. If they don't lose that game to Florida State, they could be pushing for that number 1 spot, but unfortunately they did. So sucks for them, but still makes no sense how they lost that game. But Alabama doing Alabama things, just dominating like they normally do. They have some key wins over Georgia, at Georgia, which is a really, really good win. Probably the 3rd best win in the country. I'm trying to think who else they have some quality wins over. I'm blanking. I believe they beat Missouri, which is a good win. At Missouri. So they got some quality wins. So those are the 4 byes. 4 best teams in the country, Indiana, Texas A&M, Ohio State, and Alabama. If you really don't think those are the 4 best teams, or the 4 teams that deserve those byes, then I generally don't know what you're thinking. But those are the 4 teams that I think deserve a bye. So now we're going to be going on to the matchups in the first round. These are going to be the home playoff games. So who are we going to get here as the number 5 seed? We have, there we go. The Georgia Bulldogs out of the SEC. They only got 1 loss, suffered 1 loss to Alabama at home, which kind of derailed their chances of getting in front of Bama and honestly pushing for a bye, because Alabama's going to have that tiebreaker over them unless these 2 face off again, but it's most likely going to be Texas A&M in the SEC championship. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Gunnar Stockton's been playing really well this year. Kirby Smart just keep doing what he's doing. They do finish the year at Georgia Tech, which is going to be interesting to see. And then they play Texas this weekend, so it's going to be a fun finish for them Dogs. See what they can truly do. I've been on Georgia this whole year. They're kind of when you look at their predictive metrics, they're not living up to the seed line. Neither is Alabama, neither is Texas A&M, which kind of tells you hint hint that the SEC. Listen, the SEC overrated. Look at the numbers. They're overrated. And like no matter what anybody says, they're just gonna be like, oh, the SEC is so good. The top half of the SEC just beats up on each other, and then everybody just gives them praise. And it happened last year, and everyone was saying, Notre Dame can't beat Georgia. Georgia won the SEC. Look what happened. Notre Dame, as a Notre Dame fan, and I'll be completely honest, we kicked their ass. We did throughout the entire game. And the SEC isn't what it is anymore. So, but Georgia, great team. I'm not taking away from Georgia. I'm not taking away from Alabama or Texas A&M because Texas A&M beat Notre Dame, so I can't really talk. But the SEC, when you look at those top teams, they're not playing up to their seed line. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the college football playoff. So now we're going to move on to the 6th seed, and that is, if it will load, yep, the Oregon Ducks out of the Big Ten. Led by Dante Moore. They went on the road at Iowa and beat them on Saturday. That was a really, really fun game to watch. It was a rainy game. And a lot of those, and that's what people were worried about for Oregon when they were transitioning into the Big Ten. Can you play those physical games and get stops and defend the run and run the dang ball? And they show that they can. And after that game against Iowa, a lot of people were like, oh, they're going to beat Iowa too. Iowa's a top 20 team in the country. And going on the road at Iowa is not easy to do. Ask Indiana what they did earlier this year. They only won by 5 when they went on the road to Iowa. You guys are acting like this win isn't that good. This is a really, really good win. Like, this is one of the best wins in the country. Oregon has been playing really well too. When you look at the predictive metrics, they're actually 3rd in the country when you look at the predictive metrics. So that's going to be interesting to see. I think this team is really, really good. That'd be brutal if they get matched up with Ohio State again, because I think those Oregon fans get trauma. And then that 0 national championships thing will definitely continue if they have to play Ohio State again. So I'm sorry, Oregon. You guys have been incredible this year. I'm not going to lie. Other than that slip up against Indiana at home, which isn't even a slip up because Indiana's playing incredible. Great year from the Oregon Ducks. And then Georgia and Oregon will be hosting playoff games. So now the next group of teams kind of know. So let's see who I went with here. Well, I know. Just you guys know. Will it pop up? There we go. The Texas Tech Red Raiders, led by Joey McGuire. As a Notre Dame fan, don't like what he yapping about the other day, but whatever. This team's they're led by Jacob Rodriguez, stud linebacker, probably one of the best linebackers in the country. He's probably 3rd behind Arvell Reese and Anthony Hill from Texas. Outside of that, I mean, you don't get better than Jacob Rodriguez. And then Baron Morton has been really, really solid this year. This Texas Tech defense has been incredible. David Bailey as an edge rusher. I mean, this Texas Tech team, when you look at the predictive metrics, they're 4th. So they are playing better than what their seed line gives. And those are the teams that always make these kind of runs. It was just like Notre Dame last year. Everyone's like, oh, they're in Ohio State. They're the 7th seed and 8th seed. You looked at their predictive metrics. They were underseeded heading into the tournament last year or the playoff. And look what those two teams did. They destroyed the teams in the first round, and they handled business all the way there. But Ohio State obviously was the best team in the country. And I'm sorry, I'm taking away from Texas Tech. Incredible year. Keep throwing those tortillas. It's awesome. And they had a big win against BYU this weekend. I forgot to talk about that. Their lone loss is to Arizona State. And, what I don't like about the strength of record is it doesn't really take in the factor of, how teams were at the time. Because Arizona State, when Texas Tech went on the road to play Arizona State, they were healthy. They had Sam Levitt. They had Jordan Tyson. So, honestly, that loss isn't as bad as what the strength of record indicates it. So, I like this Texas Tech team a lot. I honestly think that they have a chance to really push for the national championship. Do I think they'll win it? No, but I think they can be sneaky. So, the Texas Tech Red Raiders at the 7th seed. And the next team in this bracket. Who will be the 8 seed? I know, but do you guys know? It is the Ole Miss Rebels out of the SEC. And I know, oh my gosh, why did I give you BYU? I did not click it twice, but whatever. Sorry about that, guys. Well, now you guys know. So I guess I'll just talk about both of them. So the 8 seed Ole Miss, really, really solid team. You know, Trinidad Chambliss, you know, as a former D2 player for 2 months. That's all I gotta say. Trinidad Chambliss has been playing great. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, I wish he would be a little quieter on the press conferences, but you know what? Let him do what he wants to do. You know what I'm saying? So Ole Miss, incredible team this year. They've been really good, but their seed is a little higher than what their predicted metrics are showing. They're not playing up to the capability of their seed line, which is so you can't see a trend from the SEC teams. So Ole Miss is still an incredible team. And so, you know, they have some good wins at Oklahoma, which is a really, really good win, one of the best wins in the country. This Ole Miss team has a pretty easy schedule. So if they lose another game, it will be interesting to see where the committee puts them if they lose another game, because they shouldn't really lose another game, but you never know. And then the 9 seed, I have BYU, guys. You know, a lot of people after that loss to Texas Tech kind of counting them out. I think this BYU team is still really, really good. They're playing like a top 15 team in the country right now with the predicted metrics right around 15. But, you know, they have a really, really, really good win against Utah, who I think is one of the most underrated teams in the country. BYU, really, really solid team. You know, they kind of got worked by Texas Tech this weekend. But, you know, I think this BYU team deserves to make the playoffs. Their strength of record indicates that they are a top 8 team in the country. I have them at 9 here. So now we got one spot left. We got one at-large bid left. And you might be thinking, Brady, is it going to be Notre Dame? I'm rocking the Omicron shirt. Shout out 2022 Notre Dame baseball led by head coach Link Jarrett. Man, thank you, Link. Even though he left, gave us a really special year that year. Is it going to be Notre Dame? Is it going to be Texas? Oklahoma? Can Diego Pavia slide in that last spot? Let's see who I put in. And I put in the Texas Longhorns. And you might be thinking, Brady, you're a Notre Dame fan and you didn't slide them in. Yeah, I did. Texas, you know, they went on the road at Ohio State to start the year. Every team in the country would lose that game. I'm not going to give them a bad regard for losing that game. And then, you know, they got some quality wins. Neutral site against Oklahoma, which really, really ties into the factor of if Texas or Oklahoma are one of those last bubble teams, Texas has that head-to-head win, which is what the committee said that they will use if it really comes down to it, head-to-head matchups. And Texas has that over Oklahoma right now, which is huge. And Texas also has some solid wins. They got that win against Vanderbilt at home. I'm trying to think what else they got. I believe that's kind of it. But, you know, I got Texas at number 10. And then at number 11, I have who's projected or who's first in the ACC right now, not AAC. And that is the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets led by Haynes King. Brent Key has done an incredible job of this program. You know, the ACC has been pretty weak this year. And then Georgia Tech does get Georgia at home to finish the year. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can prove. And then the number 12 team in the country, the last spot, the American Athletic predicted champion, the South Florida Bulls. That's why I'm wrapping it up. You know, they have that win at Florida, which is, you know, not insanely impressive, but it's still a good win, guys. You know, we're not going to – winning at Florida ain't easy. Ask Texas. They couldn't do it. South Florida did, though. So South Florida is my 12th team. I think they are by far the best group of 5 team in the country. They kind of control their own destiny now. They win out, they'll be in. They lose another game, they'll be out. So South Florida is going to be a huge dividend. They play Navy this weekend. Navy just got waxed by Notre Dame, but that should be a good game. And so now I'm going to be talking about the bubble. So the first 4 teams that I had out were Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, and USC. So Notre Dame, obviously, a lot of people are like, aren't they like ninth in the college football playoff rankings? Yes, they are. But I just think, they lost to Miami, which that loss just keeps biting them because Miami freaking lost to SMU last week. And now those losses are starting to hurt. But the only thing keeping Notre Dame alive is how good they're playing. The predicted metrics have them as a top 6 team. That's the only thing that's keeping them alive right now. And they do have that win at home against USC. So that's going for them. And then the next team I have out is Oklahoma. They got that loss to Texas. They went on the road at Tennessee this weekend and beat them. But still doesn't really show an insane amount of promise just because they got that loss to Texas. And if it comes down to the wire between Texas and Oklahoma, they're gonna choose Texas. So unfortunately, Oklahoma's gonna have a rough time getting in the playoffs, I feel like, and they gotta go at Alabama this weekend. So not looking good for the Sooners. Oh, and Texas goes on the road at Georgia this weekend. So Notre Dame has a really, really good shot to slide in after this weekend. Unless Texas's numbers really don't fall, but I feel like they might if they got to go on the road to Georgia. Then the third team I have out is Vanderbilt, led by Diego Pavia. Really, really solid year from Diego Pavia in this Vanderbilt offense. The defense, on the other hand, not really. But Vanderbilt has proven to be one of the better teams in the country. Absolute dogs. They lack those wins. They lack the big wins right now. But they got the win against Missouri at home. I'm trying to think of who else they beat. LSU at home, which is not looking incredible anymore, but you never know. And then the last team I have out, or whatever, the fourth team I have out is USC. They have that win against Michigan, and that's kind of what that last spot was between USC and Michigan. USC beat Michigan by 18 points. Had to give it to USC. They still control their own destiny. They got Iowa at home, and they finished off the year with a pretty manageable schedule. So 10-2 looks pretty reasonable for the Trojans. And then I also talked about other teams that are right there. Michigan, they finished the year versus Ohio State. They get them at home this year. So that's going to be Ohio State's first test in a while. So maybe Michigan can catch them off guard. If Michigan goes 10-2 with the win against Ohio State, they should most likely be in. And then Oklahoma has that win against Michigan. So that might be interesting if all those teams somehow end up with 10-2, 9-3 within that range. Other teams that are kind of within reach, Illinois, they got 2 losses to Indiana and Ohio State, but everybody in the country would lose to Indiana and Ohio State, and they got that win over USC. So Illinois should be kind of in the mix. They already got 3 losses though, so they're not going to get in. But I think it's still worth a mention. Miami, they're worth a mention. Utah is worth a mention. Their predicted metrics are off the charts. They just don't really have that key wins to really push themselves into the playoffs, so they most likely will not get in. I think Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and USC and Michigan, those 4 teams have the best chance to get in. I think Vanderbilt's going to have a hard time to get in. Actually, Oklahoma, never mind. I feel like they're going to have a hard time getting in just because they got a brutal schedule to finish the year. So I think Notre Dame, USC, and Michigan all have a really good chance to slide into the playoff. If BYU loses another game, they're probably going to be out just because of their predictive metrics not really showing. But I think they're 8-1, so it's hard to pick against an 8-1 team. So now I'm going to be going more towards the ACC and the American. So Georgia Tech, they lost to NC State 2 weeks ago. There's a lot of other teams pushing for that ACC regular season championship. We got SMU, you got Duke, you got Louisville, you got Miami, you got Pitt, you got Georgia Tech, obviously. I don't know if I said Duke, but yeah, all those teams are pushing for the ACC championship game, and I genuinely think any of them can win it. Personally, if you were to ask me who's going to win the ACC, I would say SMU, just because of the way that they play their offense. Kevin Jennings is an experienced quarterback. He's got a lot of targets. They love spreading out that offense, and their defense has been really, really solid this year. Honestly, their defense has been carrying them at points. So I think SMU is going to end up getting it done in the ACC, and then in the American. You got South Florida pushing for it, North Texas, Navy, Memphis, Tulane. All those teams are going to be pushing for it. But I think South Florida is the best team in this conference. as long as they take care of business against Navy this weekend, I think they should be good. And then they'll either play North Texas or Tulane in the AAC championship. But I think South Florida is going to win the conference. And then another team to watch out for is James Madison. They're 8-1, only lost at Louisville way back early when Louisville had Isaac Brown. So, it's going to be interesting to see who those 5 highest ranked group of 5 teams are. Because if South Florida loses again and maybe North Texas drops one or Tulane, James Madison could be able to slide in there. So that'll be really fun to watch. Well, I don't think I got a single viewer. I think I got one throughout this entire video. So I'm probably just going to end this. Not too much. You guys, if you want to drop any questions, because this is going to be on a live, so I believe that you should be able to come back and watch this. If you want to comment on this video, ask any questions about how I feel about this, feel free. So if you get to this point, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. It's easy. Hit that notification bell so you know when I post. Click the like button, all that stuff. And thank you guys for tuning in. BMAX Bracketology out. God bless everyone.